Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I'm from Canada. Canada is a country with one of the strictest gun controls in the world. Canada has very strict gun control. Pretty much only the Canadian police have guns. The Canadian police, they're like a bunch of thugs and bullies. They pretty much do whatever they want. They beat people up. They get free donuts, the Canadian police. Um, in fact, a few years ago, I distinctly remember there was a woman from Sweden who claimed that several Canadian police officers had raped her. They got away with it because they deleted the body cam footage. So Canadian police are very corrupt. Canada has gun control, doesn't stop the criminals. Mainly the Canadian police are the criminals. Doesn't stop them from breaking the law. But more so, yeah, Canadian police, they were bad mouthing Americans, and a lot of them we're seeing them laughing these last couple weeks. Uh, I mean, Canadian cops and Canadians, they didn't like America, and they were making fun of Americans before the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then after the Charlie Kirk assassination, all of these Canadians, especially Canadian police, especially rich elite Canadians, they have been bad mouthing Americans, saying Americans deserved or and Americans had it coming because they don't have gun control. Really sad that Canadians, especially Canadian police, talk like this. And I'm a conservative Canadian, and there's very few conservative Canadians. So I support Trump. I support conservatism, and I support the Second Amendment as well. But of course, Canada is full of these communist Canadians. They're sociopaths, these communist Canadians. There's a lot of Canadian veterinary clinics that are run by communist China, and they murder people's dogs. They euthanize people's dogs. They get off on euthanizing people's dogs. There's a lot of these veterinary clinics in Canada. They're owned by communist China. They're all about money. They don't care about animals, and a lot of people's dogs and cats die at these veterinary clinics owned by communist China. There's Chinese people everywhere. They're extremely communist. Chinese Canadians are extremely communist, and Canada is very communist, very strict gun control, and really sad uh, that Canadians are so not only disrespectful but very sociopathic, liars, psychopaths. They were laughing after the Charlie Kirk assassination. These Canadian police were saying Americans had it coming, they deserved it. Really sad. No one deserves that. No one deserves that. And these Canadian police, they have been Nazi communist a-holes for a long time, these Canadian police. And, I mean, America, you'd be doing Canada a favor if you really made Canada the 51st state. When Donald Trump said that he wanted to make Canada the 51st state, there were all these conservative Canadians that were like, yes, please do it. But he didn't, and you really should. I think Americans, if you really made Canada the 51st state, and you know what I mean by making Canada the 51st state, right? Uh, aside from, arresting Justin Trudeau, the French Canadian Prime Minister of Canada, arresting him and tying him to a flat. Anyways, I could just imagine if America did make Canada the 51st state, Justin Trudeau would be arrested, signed, delivered, and strip searched, delivered to that prison, that American prison. I could just imagine if the United States actually did make Canada the 51st state. The first thing, probably one of the first things they would do is arrest that creepy French Canadian transgender lover, Justin Trudeau, who talks about trans, everything, and tries to promote being trans to all of the schools. So Canada's screwed up. Canada's a screwed up country. It's communist. And I think America should make Canada the 51st state, in my opinion. And maybe you guys just need to just one day, just when Canada thinks that they're all good, everything's good, just one day, Maybe on a day that Canada would never suspect, like Valentine's Day. Although there's a lot of grumpy old Canadian women that are single, and they probably are not. They're probably very like angry on Valentine's Day, so maybe that wouldn't be a good day. Thanksgiving. Uh, you know, maybe Thanksgiving, and basically pick a day, and oh, we got comments. We got people in here. Eric Des Mules. Sir, I'm not sure how to say your name. Eric came in and Eric said, LMFAO, you're welcome to try. I think Americans can do anything if they put their minds to it. I think Americans, if they have perseverance and strength and determination, Americans can do anything they put their minds to. Unless, of course, it has to do with building a wall. Americans didn't really complete the wall, did they? Um, if it has to do with losing weight, I don't know. But other than that, I think Americans can pretty much put whatever their minds to, you know? So yeah, if Americans really wanted to make Canada the 51st state, I think they could do it. I think Americans could make Canada the 51st state. So any other comments? There's only one person in here for now, but I do see people are coming in. So as soon as the room gets busy and there's more comments, I'll start talking again. But yeah, let's make Canada the 51st state. Let's do what that was a great idea that Donald Trump had when President Trump, when he said he wanted to make Canada the 51st state. It was his idea. It was not my idea. I'm not a Canadian trader, but these communist Canadians, they beat me up. They stole my money. Communist Canadians, they murdered my dog. They euthanized my dog. Chinese communist veterinarian euthanized my dog because Canadian psychopaths, Canadian sociopaths. So basically, yeah, I want revenge on. No, no, I'm not gonna say that. I want justice. I want justice on against what Canada did to me. These liberal communist Canadian people. I was beat up by a bunch of Canadian transgenders, a bunch of Canadian trannies. They beat me up one time. There's been a lot of things that happened. They murdered my dog. They euthanized my dog. Communist Chinese veterinarians euthanized my dog. And then I had another dog one time, and Canadian police entered my apartment without a warrant. And then the Canadian police shot my dog, my other dog. That was like 15 years ago. That started my whole crusade against the police, the Canadian police. When 15 years ago, the Canadian police they illegally entered my apartment without a warrant, and then they shot my dog. The Canadian police shot my dog. Uh, and then Canada, of course, they have Canadian transvestite school teachers. They molested me. So much evil stuff Canada does. Canada has abused me all my life. I tried to get justice. I tried to sue the Canadian government. I tried to sue the Canadian police. I tried to sue the Canadian military. I used to work for the Canadian military. The Canadian military, the Canadian Forces is my former employer. I tried to sue these people for what they did to me. They beat me up. They threw out my lawsuit. They lied. They didn't even tell me when I there was court dates, and I didn't get to defend myself in my lawsuit, my civil lawsuit against these people. They threw out my lawsuit. They beat me up. They tortured me. They wrongfully then had the audacity to put me in prison. So yeah, I'm a conservative Canadian who's been victim to these not Americans. I'm a conservative Canadian who's been victim to these communist Canadians for years. Like, if you only knew half the stuff that communist Canada does, like the transvestite school teachers, no freedom of speech, no human rights, they euthanize people's dogs, they murder people's dogs. Canadian police, they enter Canadians' homes without warrants, and then the Canadian police, they shoot people's dogs. Canadian police are dog killers. So, yeah, if you Americans wanted to stick a flag up Canada's ass, I really wouldn't mind, especially me, since, I'm not like into flags or anything. That was a joke. But anyways, if you Americans, you know what I mean. If you Americans wanted to shove an American flag up Canada's ass, it would be good for Canada. You arrest these communist Canadians, put them in. American prison, especially Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. That guy's a creep. That guy's a transgender. He's not transgender. He's like worse. Like Justin Trudeau is a creepy like pedo. Justin Trudeau's the French Canadian Prime Minister of Canada who talks about trans kids and promotes transgenderism and thinks it's okay to have transvestite school teachers. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, like that guy is a creepy pedo. He's definitely probably on the Epstein list. He's on the Diddy list, on the Trudeau list. He probably has his own Trudeau list. Justin Trudeau, the former French Canadian Prime Minister of Canada, he definitely belongs in prison. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, like if Canada had something to do with 9/11. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada had something to do with California being on fire. I know Canada had something to do with COVID, something big to do with COVID. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada was behind the Boston Marathon. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada's to blame for Americans being so fat. There's a lot of reasons why you could blame Canada. No, for real, for real. Maybe the fat thing, maybe Americans being fat is maybe not a Canada problem, but if you Americans, if you start chasing Canadians, you'll lose weight. That's one of the good ways Americans can lose weight. You fat Americans, if you just go chase those communist Canadians, then Americans can lose weight. It'll be a win-win. You can arrest those communist Canadians, put them in prison. The conservative Canadians like me will all be celebrating, breaking out the champagne, and when America finally makes Canada the 51st state. So conservative Canadians like me, we would love it. Conservative Canadians who believe in like just having a normal life, normal people, normal job, normal friends, no transvestite school teachers, everyone has freedom of speech, no one's like touching you on the subway. Like if conservative Canadians like me would love it if America took over Canada and made Canada the 51st state. So like, hey Trump, you promised you would, or you didn't really promise, but you said you suggested maybe you would. It was your idea, Mr. Donald Trump. You said it was about a year ago, 8 months ago. You said make Canada the 51st state, and I think you should, Mr. Donald Trump. I think you should make Canada the 51st state. Um, Canada is like they're full of transvestite school teachers. They're creeps. They're pedos. Canada, there's no freedom of speech. They're even animal abusers. The Canadian veterinarians. Canadian veterinarians are sickos who like to euthanize animals. Canadian doctors are pedos as well. They molest unconscious patients. There's news articles about it. There was an Indian Canadian doctor from Toronto who was convicted after a major cover up, after finally 20 years of women coming forward. Finally, this creep Indian Canadian doctor was finally convicted of molesting patients, molesting his own patients while they were on the operating table. Canadian doctors are pedos, Canadian teachers are transvestites and pedos. The Prime Minister of Canada, who talks about trans kids, the Prime Minister of Canada, French Canadian Justin Trudeau, he's a nut job, he's a pedo. There's no free speech in Canada, there's no human rights. So yeah, if you Americans wanted to basically come to Canada, make Canada the 51st state, and ultimately, if you Americans wanted to shove a giant American flag up Canada's ass, I think it would be a good idea. I really would. I think it would be good for Canada. It would definitely humble Canada, would definitely humble those Canadian police officers who beat me up and stole my money. And those Canadian police think that they can just go get free donuts because they're Canadian police. See, that's what happens when only the police have guns. When you live in a police state like Canada, when you live in a police state like Canada, this is what happens. The Canadian police get so cocky and arrogant, and they become the biggest bullies and sociopaths. They literally just do whatever they want. They get free donuts, they park wherever they want, they speed, they murder people. The Canadian police, they murder people, and then they cover it up. And not only do Canadian citizens not even have guns to defend themselves, not only do Canadian citizens not even have guns to defend themselves, but then the Canadian police don't even wear body cams. The Canadian police don't even wear body cams. So you can just imagine, like, if you Americans, you're seeing pretty screwed up shit on body cams worn by Americans. Just imagine Canadian police don't even wear body cams. Just imagine, and it's a police state. Only the Canadian police have guns. So just imagine, Canada, no free speech. They have transvestite school teachers. Only the Canadian police have guns. The Canadian police don't even wear body cams. And there's a conservative Canadian right now complaining about it. Many reasons why America should really consider coming to Canada very peacefully, taking Canada over peacefully, very peacefully arresting Justin Trudeau. Maybe accidentally, Justin Trudeau slams into the car door. Accidentally, of course, not on purpose. And Justin Trudeau definitely goes to prison because the Prime Minister of Canada, the Justin Trudeau, the French Canadian pervert, who talks about transvestite school teachers, who thinks it's okay for transvestites to be school teachers. French Canadian pervert Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who definitely belongs in prison and needs to be arrested for all of the stuff he's done to Canada. Not only the COVID disaster, he screwed Canada over with COVID. He made only certain businesses lock down. But then guess what? Justin Trudeau, who invested in several restaurants, his restaurants got to stay open during COVID. They made lots of money. But then Justin Trudeau had the police order other people's restaurants to shut down during COVID. And those people's lost their businesses. They lost their restaurants. They lost those hardworking Canadians. They lost their businesses because Justin Trudeau, he allowed certain restaurants owned by him to be opened. And then they made a lot of money. And then Justin Trudeau forced other people's businesses to close down during COVID, and Justin Trudeau's a crony, he's a thug, he's a thief. The French Canadians, they're psychopaths, especially French Canadian veterinarians. They like to euthanize people's dogs, they euthanize people's animals. You bring your dog in to the French Canadian veterinarians for a checkup. Next thing you know, the psychopath French Canadian Dr. Simon DeBoer is suddenly recommending to euthanize your dog. And then you say no, 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 and then he does it anyways, and he murders your dog. He murders your Pomeranian that was, just a nice, loving Pomeranian. She was a great Pomeranian. She loved everyone. And then I brought her in for a checkup because they told us we need to bring the dog in for a checkup. Next thing you know, the French Canadian veterinarian psychopath, Dr. Simon DeBoer, suddenly suggests he wants to use, he, suddenly he recommends euthanizing my dog. I say no. I say no, and I go try to get my dog, and they stop me from getting my dog, and then they just went ahead and euthanized my dog, and they locked me out of the room. I was banging on the door, don't you dare touch my dog. And this psychopath French Canadian veterinarian, Dr. Simon Labor, he euthanized my dog. And then when I tried to sue them and get the footage, get the security cam footage from the veterinary clinic, they hired a big fancy law firm. They had my case dismissed. They even served me a notice of this motion to dismiss. They even served me a notice that they were going to dismiss my case. So I wasn't aware that they were going to dismiss my civil lawsuit. They had my case dismissed. Then they had the audacity to accuse me of harassing the vet clinic when I was actually suing them. They had the audacity to accuse me of harassing the vet clinic. They had the audacity to accuse me of harassing the vet clinic when I was just suing them. And then they had the audacity to put me in Canadian prison. So basically, yeah, Americans, if you, I think you should follow through on Donald Trump's suggestion to make Canada the 51st state. You really should. And if you Americans come to Canada and shove a giant American flag up Canada's ass, I think it would be great. I think it would be great for Canada, conservative Canadians, for like me. It would be great for conservative Canadians. It would be great for Americans. It would be great for probably not China because China like kind of took over Canada right now. Hey, you remember a few months ago when you Americans you caught those Chinese spies who were trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens? There was a news article. Remember the news article about a few months ago? There were Chinese spies that were caught in America, and these Chinese spies were trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States. So basically, they were doing bioterrorism. Chinese spies from China that were in the United States doing bioterrorism. Those Chinese spies, they probably came from Canada, I'm telling you, China took over Canada. There's communist Chinese people everywhere, and they eat dogs and cats. And that's why a lot of people's dogs and cats go missing in Canada. Because if you know, communist China is famous for eating everything. I mean, communist China would probably eat you. Communist China's favorite communist China is famous for eating everything, absolutely everything. Octopuses, sheep, pigs, Taco Bell. Communist Chinese people, they will eat everything. They eat dogs, they eat cats, and communist China has a famous dog eating festival. This is a Googleable fact. Googleable fact? Yes, this is a Googleable fact. It's a Googleable fact. I can't even. Googleable. Anyways, this is a you can Google this. You can Google this. Just go be a Googler. No, don't be a Googler. Just Google search it. Just go Google search Communist China famous dog eating festival. It's a fact. Communist China, they eat dogs, they eat cats. And these communist Chinese people came straight from communist China, went to Canada, and they didn't stop eating dogs and cats just because they're in Canada now. Just because communist Chinese people who were eating dogs and cats in China, just because they went to Canada doesn't mean they stopped eating dogs and cats. And that's why a lot of Canadians' dogs and cats go missing. But this is not an anti-China rant. This is America Save Canada rant. And if Americans think it's a good idea to shove, if Americans think it's a good idea to shove a giant American flag up Canada's ass, then by all means, Americans, follow your intuition, follow your gut, follow your intuition. What does your intuition say? Next time, transgender Justin Trudeau, tranny lover Justin Trudeau, the French Canadian Prime Minister, next time he gets on stage and says, I am French and I'm French Canadian and I'm going to say everything in English and French and I'm so much better than you and I'm a French Canadian that lives in a $20 million estate and you Americans, you live in trailer parks and you Americans actually think that America is better than Canada when I am a French Canadian Justin Trudeau, rich elite snob that lives in a $20 million estate while you poor Americans live in trailer parks and you eat Taco Bell and drink Dr. Pepper while I am a rich French Canadian elite Justin Trudeau, and I'm gonna say this whole thing in English and then in French, and I'm so much better than you, and I live in a $20 million estate, and you Americans would never ever have the balls to take over Canada. You Americans would never have the balls to take over Canada, and that's why Canada will always be better than you poor Americans that live in trailer parks. And I'm a rich French Canadian snob, rich elite that speaks French and lives in $1 million homes. I'm a rich French Canadian elite, Justin Trudeau, and I live in $1 million homes and I go on trips to Hawaii and I eat the most healthiest food while you Americans, you eat Taco Bell and drink Dr. Pepper and there's chemtrails all over. Okay, let's go to the comments. A lot of times people think this is a recording. I'm about to prove this is not a recording. Kenzie Small came in and said, damn, Canada better 100%. Robert Dingman came in and said, bro, trains, rum, trains. I don't know what that means. Um, Willow Mally Bell says, is this a direct quote or uh, J.K. Lim came in and said, brain dead. Omi Honda came in and said, there he is. Jesse Felgentrager, I'm not sure how to say your name, Jesse Felgentrager, came in and said, what estate did Charlie Kirk live in? What estate? You mean what state or what estate? Hey, what state I don't know what start. I know he was assassinated in Utah, but I don't even know which state Charlie Kirk is from. Now that I think about it, which state was Charlie Kirk from? I don't know. I'm Canadian. Like I am a conservative Canadian, but like I don't know everything there is to know about Americans. Obviously I know who Charlie Kirk was. I saw several of his videos. I like Charlie Kirk. I supported Charlie Kirk. Obviously, as a conservative Canadian, I was 100% in support of Charlie Kirk. I love Charlie Kirk. I was devastated when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It was horrible. So obviously, as a conservative Canadian, I supported Charlie Kirk. I also support Tucker Carlson. I actually really like Tucker Carlson. I like Megyn Kelly. I like Candace Owens. I like very conservative Americans. But yeah, I don't know, obviously, like, I don't know which state, for example, Megyn Kelly's from. She sounds like she's from Minnesota. I don't know what state Charlie Kirk's from. I just know, obviously, he was assassinated in Utah at the Utah University, which that was awful. That was awful, that um, assassination. That was just so scary and tragic. And Canadians are sociopaths. Canadians, they were all laughing after the assassination. Canadian police officers were laughing at Americans and saying, "Oh, that's what America gets for not having gun control." Like Canada, Canada has very strict gun control. So, anyways, let's go back to comments. Terrell, Terrell 4708 came in and said, "What an idiotic thought process. Go find yourself a girlfriend and shut up." Okay. Um, First off, I I'm not transgender. I'm not liberal. I'm a conservative Canadian. And if you must know, I do not have a girlfriend, but I have a very good friend, best friend, who's a Russian soldier in the Russian army, if you must know. But me and my Russian soldier friend, who's a Russian soldier in the Russian army, we are just friends and nothing more. But sometimes we're friends with benefits. What I mean by that is we share secrets back and forth between Russia and Canada. But that's all I meant by friends with benefits. That's all. And sometimes some gay stuff. But other than that, we're just purely platonic. Me and my Russian soldier friend. He's a Russian soldier in the Russian military. Oh, which by the way, yeah. So for my Russian audience, привет всем, добро пожаловать на мой канал. Сегодня вечером, как видишь, я говорю про канадские люди и американские люди, и это так печально, что случилось с ним, что случилось с Чарли Кирка. Я не могу поверить, что случилось, это очень печально. И я хочу задать вопрос американские люди, если они хотят uh, возьмете Canada. Anyways, Jeremy Smith came in and said, "This has got to be a joke. You are so irrelevant and you're never going to be. Your facts are wrong. And I'm French Canadian. Lol, talk shit to us in person. You won't even show your face, you goofy loser." Okay, thank you, Jeremy Smith, for your comment. Christina Gordon came in and said, "This guy is Gust trying to piss people off." Oh, you spelled just wrong. You said Gust. She said, "This guy is Gus trying to piss people off, acting like Americans." Okay, thank you for your comment. Uh, DJ Stu came in and said, "French Canadian here. You're a liar." No, you're a liar. Voltron99 came in and said, "Are you actually comparing Canada to the shit show the US is in now?" Lamayo, that's what he said. Voltron99. Josie M said, WTF? Josie M said, "WTF, are you talking about you know nothing? You realize Justin Trudeau is not the PM anymore, right?" Oh my God, just because he's not the PM anymore, he destroyed Canada. Justin Trudeau cannot get away with destroying Canada just because he's no longer the PM, you know? It's like Hitler. If Hitler after World War II, right? Suddenly Hitler did all that stuff in World War II, and then Hitler resigns as president of Germany. Oh, it's okay now. You don't have to. Like, Saul Good came in and said, "Ha ha 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 ha." Uh, Robert Dingman came in and said, "I agree about Justin." Yep, a lot of people agree about Justin. Carnage came in and said, "Come to Alberta." No, no, thank you. I know all about Alberta. I'm gonna stay in British Columbia where it's safe. Um, Steve Brown came in and said, I'm Canadian and live in Ontario. Sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear you live in Ontario. And he says he has, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to read the rest of your comment. You're welcome to write your comment, but I don't have to read it. In fact, I read half your comment. That's more than what most streamers will do. But yeah, I'm for free speech. I don't block anyone. I don't ban anyone. I'm definitely for free speech. But like, I also have the freedom of speech. Obviously, I'm not gonna read certain comments, you know. Um, like one time someone came in to my live stream and wrote the most offensive, disgusting comment, the most repulsive comment. I couldn't even believe she had the audacity to say such a thing. And she wanted me to read out her comment, and I go to read the comment, and this is why I have a rule now on reading comments, because I go to read the comment, and the comment was, Taylor Swift is the best singer in the world, and I'm like, what did you just make me say? And then it looked like I said Taylor Swift was the best singer in the world, and I can't have a video circulating of me saying Taylor Swift's the best singer in the world. I will lose credibility forever, and I could never show my face, you know? I'd be the laughing stock of the world if there was a video of me saying, you know, Taylor Swift is the best singer in the world. So clearly, it's not good to just always just read everybody's comments, but I respect people's free speech, and you're welcome to say whatever you want. But no Taylor Swift talk. No, I'm just joking. You can trash Taylor Swift all you want. You can come in and badmouth Taylor Swift all you want. You could say whatever you want about Taylor Swift. This is not a fake stream. This is not a recorded loop. This is not a recorded stream. This is not a fake stream. This is not a fake stream. This is not a fake stream. This is not a recorded stream. This is a real stream. I am a real person. I am a am I a robot? No, I'm not a I'm not a robot. I'm not a robot. I'm a real person. I'm not AI. I'm not artificial intelligence. I'm a real person. And I can see the comments. For example, Aaron Clark just said, that's the smartest thing I've heard you say yet. Joseph Dominger came in and said, this stream is fake, just so you know, chat. It's not fake. I just said it's not fake. Um, Carnage Carney said, "Yeah, you would stay in BC. We don't want you in Alberta. You're nuts." And we in BC, we in British Columbia, especially Vancouver, we don't want you Albertans in BC. So you can stay in Alberta, and we will stay in BC, British Columbia. Um, so who wants Canada to be the 51st state and who doesn't? Let's settle this argument once and for all. All of these Canadians coming and talking shit about Americans, would you like to be the 51st state? Oh, here we go. Now it's all of the Canadians. They're bringing out the anti-American comments. As soon as I ask the question to these Canadians, would you like to be America's 51st state? Suddenly, let's see the comments. People are saying F no, F Americans, F no, F them, will never be the 51st state. They're saying Canada will never be the 51st state. They're saying F Americans. They're saying Americans are fat. They're saying Americans are inbreds. They're saying Americans are ugly. They're saying Americans are intelligent. That can't be wrong. I mean, that can't be right. Who said Americans are intelligent? See, so yeah, clearly Canadians don't want Americans to make Canada the 51st state. Unfortunately, I do. I'm a conservative Canadian, and I want Canada to be the 51st state. But as you can see, if there's any Americans in the live stream right now, and I know they are watching, I especially know they're watching the Americans. If there's any Americans in the live stream right now, as you can see, there's all of these Canadians talking mad shit about America. and to your face, which is very new for Canadians. Usually, Canadians are just known for talking shit about Americans behind their backs, especially after 9/11, and especially before 9/11. But right now, you can see that these Canadians, they clearly do not want to be the 51st state of America. These Canadians are talking mad shit about America, and they're proving my point. They were talking mad shit after the Charlie Kirk assassination, and these Canadians are also talking mad shit about Americans, and they don't want to be the 51st state. Canada wants to remain its own uh, country, free of, well, Canada's not free of anything. Canada's very expensive. Canada is very expensive to live in, okay? While you Americans are living in trailer parks, while you gun-loving Americans are living in trailer parks, eating spam, eating cans of spam, Canadians, it's very rich and expensive up in Canada. Like, I live in a $3 million home, and a lot of Canadians I know in British Columbia, Vancouver, Victoria, BC, and even Alberta. This guy just now from Alberta. Canadians are very rich. Like, we are very rich, but we're also have strict gun control. Canada is like very strict with gun control, so only the Canadian police really have guns. There's some guns, like sometimes you'll see the occasional hunter, sometimes there's an occasional Canadian who used to work for the RCMP, but it's very rare that the average Canadian has a gun. Like, honestly, the average Canadian is unarmed, for real. Canada has very strict gun control. If they see a gun, if they even hear a gun, they'll send like 20 police cars, okay? So Canada has extremely strict gun control. That's why you rarely ever hear about shootings in Canada. Canada has very strict gun control. And Canada also, we're very rich. Canadians are rich, live in $1 million homes, eat the healthiest food, drink $1,000 bottles of wine and champagne. Canadians, in their spare time, love to make fun of Americans, especially Americans that live in trailer parks and inbred Americans. Canadians love to talk shit about Americans and spread rumors about 9/11. Especially, the whole inside job thing. The whole conspiracy theory that America had did an inside job on 9/11. That came from Canada, okay? That came from Canadians. Oh, Americans attacked themselves, and Americans did 9/11 was an inside job. That came from Canadians. So Canadians, they spread nasty rumors about Americans. They make fun of Americans for living in trailer parks. Canadians are a bunch of rich elites. They live in $1 million homes. They have like gold bars. Have you ever seen a gold bar before? Have you ever seen a solid gold bar? Well, if you Americans make Canada the 51st state, and you go to Canadians' homes are full of gold. Like, if you Americans are just salivating at the mouth thinking about golden bars, bars of gold, bars made of solid gold, Canada is full of gold. So if you Americans ever do take over Canada, if you Americans ever do make Canada the 51st state, you Americans would inherit a lot of gold. A lot of gold. Also, we got like $1,000 bottles of champagne. We got like some of the best food, really, really healthy food. We don't eat any of the food that you Americans eat. You Americans, you eat a lot of crap food, you Americans, very unhealthy food. And Canadians, we're living much longer in Canada because we're eating very healthy food. We have like gold and diamonds everywhere, oh, diamonds and gold. And we're very rich Canadians, and we're also very unarmed. Canadians, the average Canadian, we're very unarmed. And oh, Canadians love to talk shit about Americans and make up rumors about 9/11 being an inside job, and that Americans attacked themselves. Canada probably, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that Canada set California on fire. And Canada, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that Canada had something to do with the Boston Marathon. And Canada was definitely behind COVID. I know them, I know that for sure. So yeah, basically, as you Americans can see, there's a lot of proud Canadians who definitely do not want to be the 51st state, but they probably welcome you to try, like that one gentleman who was just saying, well, it was the very first comment in the chat when I started the live stream. He's like, welcome you to try, and I think Americans just might try. sticking a giant American flag up Canada's ass. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I wouldn't be shocked about anything after 9/11, after the Boston Marathon, after COVID. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if America did make Canada the 51st state. So let's go back to comments. I bet there's going to be a lot. Ray Vasquez said you sound so strong. I think you're being sarcastic. Robert Dingman says lies. I think you're being sarcastic. Literal sarcasm says you're pathetic. I don't think you're being sarcastic. Carnage Carney said a whole bunch of smack about about Americans. Carnage Carney, you definitely, I can tell you don't like Americans. He said, Carnage Carney said, that's what you think. Lots of guns in Canada. Look it up. 41 million people, 20 million guns sold in Canada since 2000. No, that's a lie. The Canada has very strict gun control. In fact, like, listen, if you call the Canadian police, and if you, like, for example, if you Americans called, for example, the Canadian police, like if you called any Canadian police force in Canada, and you said, what would happen if a bunch of Texans from Texas, gun-loving American, proud gun-loving Texans from Texas, what would happen if a bunch of Texans from Texas went to Canada on vacation and brought their guns? I think you know what would happen. So all of these people saying, "Oh, Canada is very gun friendly." No, no, Canada has extremely strict gun control. And if anyone disagrees with me and wants to prove me wrong, then how about a bunch of Texans from Texas grab your guns because you're a bunch of gun-loving Texans from Texas. That's grab your guns. Go, hey Texans, have you ever been to Canada? You want to visit Canada? Go ahead, go visit Canada. Next time you Texans want to take a vacation, have you Texans ever seen snow before? If you've never been seen snow, you'll love it. You'll love snow. Snow is great. Snow is so wonderful. If you Texans have never seen snow before and you'd like to see some snow, um, get in your cars and next time you want to go on vacation, go take a vacation in Canada and make sure you're go strapped. And you know what I mean by strapped. Make sure you are strapped, you have all the strap-ons on, and then you bring your luggage, get the suntan lotion. Oh, you're probably not gonna need the suntan lotion. Buy a bunch of coats. Buy really warm coats. Buy coats and jackets and hats and toques and hats and go to Canada on vacation and in Texans and see, and then you'll see, and then Texans from America, gun-loving American Texans will really see what Canada is like with regards to guns, right? Especially Texans who walk around, Texans open carry, Texans like walk around with them like Texans walk around with them out. They just whip them out in public. Texans, they just whip them out. They just whip them out in public. Texans walk around with those things hanging out, with those guns hanging out. Texans walk around with it hanging out, their guns, and they just whip them out in public. I'm talking about their guns. Uh, and Texans, yeah, I definitely think next time you Texans want to take a vacation, you American Texans, go to Canada. And then you'll see if Canada really is so strict with gun control. Actually, you'll see how strict Canada is with gun control. And I would love to see Texans, American Texans from Texas, gun-loving Texans from Texas. I would love to see you guys meet Canadian police, and then have a meeting, have a rendezvous, have a you could go meet at a Taylor Swift concert or something. You could actually wait a minute. Sorry, that was wrong. Sorry. No, no, no. I will not tolerate Taylor Swift jokes. I will not tolerate Taylor Swift jokes in my live stream. So no Taylor Swift jokes. But anyway, someone came in the live stream earlier and was saying something about Taylor Swift concert. No, I don't like Taylor Swift. So let's make this very clear. I'm not a liberal. I don't like Taylor Swift. I'm not a transgender. I IP standing up. I'm not transgender. I'm not liberal. I don't like Taylor Swift. I didn't vote for Kamala, especially since I'm Canadian. I don't have purple hair. I don't have blue hair. Okay. And I'm not a crazy liberal, and I'm not into Taylor Swift. I don't like Taylor Swift. She's garbage. She can't sing. And she's very un-American, I find Taylor Swift. So no, I'm not liberal, I'm not crazy liberal. I don't have blue hair. I'm not a Kamala supporter. I'm not a Joe Biden supporter. I'm not a Canadian liberal. I am a conservative Canadian. And I would love it if the United States made Canada the 51st state, like Trump promised he would. Trump promised he would. So let's go back to the comments. Nostromo came in and said a lot of baloney, if you ask me. Well, there's definitely not bacon in Canada. Canada Canada has, I think, said no to bacon because well, there's a lot less bacon in Canada. There's very few, there's not as much bacon as you think in Canada. Like I know Americans compared to the United States, the United States is full of bacon, but Canada, okay, after 9/11, actually before 9/11, all around 9/11, before 9/11, after 9/11, Canada was always like good friends with Muslims, especially Muslim extremists. So, especially after 9/11 and before 9/11, Canada took lots of Muslim extremists. So, of course, Muslim extremists don't like bacon. They don't eat pork. And so Canada does whatever the Muslim extremists wants, right? If the Muslim extremists don't want Canada to eat bacon no more and eat less pork, Canada eats a lot less pork, especially compared to the United States. If the Muslim extremists need an alibi, Canada gives whatever the Muslim extremists they want, right? So Canada's friends with all of America's enemies. Canada is best friends with Muslim extremists. Canada is best friends with North Koreans. There's a bunch of North Koreans up here. Iranians, we got a whole bunch of Iranians. Muslims, Russians, we got Russians, Germans, World War II Germans. Canada is full of World War II Germans and World War II Japanese. That's right. Canada is full of World War II Japanese, World War II Germans. Canada is full of North Koreans and Iranians and Russians. And worst of all, they speak French and live in $1 million homes in their French. They speak a French in there. They speak a French. Oh no, that's Italian. They speak a French. They speak a French. No, that's an Italian. Okay, whatever. They're French, Italian, whatever they are. They're French, and then. So Canada is full of all of America's enemies: French Canadians, Iranians, North Koreans, Cubans, Mexicans, Russians, basically everybody. World War II Germans and World War II Japanese. Canada is full of all of America's enemies. And that's why America, especially, should consider making Canada the 51st state. So let's go back to comments. Oh, and I just wanted to say, um, that really politely, I just wanted to say, because Canadians were so nice, unlike you Americans. Canada, we're so known for being nice, and I just want to say that Canada, we are very proud people, Canadians, and we love hockey. Canadians love hockey. Hockey is a real sport, unlike football. I mean, a lot of Canadians don't even know what American football is. Hockey is a real sport. Canadians love to play hockey, which is definitely a real manly sport. Unlike that really girly sport that you Americans play called American football, Canada loves to play hockey. In fact, a lot of Canadian hockey players and a lot of Canadian police, they love to joke that hockey's the best, hockey's a real sport, and a lot of Canadian police and a lot of Canadian hockey players love to joke around and say, "Oh, those Americans and their gay football." Especially when you American football players pat each other on the ass. You notice that on the butt? You notice American football players, why do they do that? Why do American football players pat each other on the butt? Why do they do that? So anyways, you Americans have your American football, and in Canada, Canada has a real sport, and it's called hockey. Hockey is a real sport, and Canadian police officers love to make jokes about how stupid American football is, and Canadian police officers love to say how good hockey is, and and Canadian police officers love to say that you Americans suck at football when you're playing American football. You're not even good American football players. You're not even good at the sport that is like your national sport. And you're not good at racism anymore either. Oh, right, that's right. You Americans, you did not win all your wars. Now that we think about it, let's see. That's right. Americans, you actually lost many wars. You lost the war to Vietnam when you Americans invaded Vietnam. A lot of people think you Americans even lost the war in the Middle East, really. Americans, you, oh, that's right. You Americans got destroyed on Pearl Harbor. You Americans weren't so tough on Pearl Harbor. They destroyed you, the Japanese. Those Japanese people, the Japan destroyed American during Pearl Harbor. Oh, and that's right. America even had a war with Canada. The War of 1812, the famous in our Canadian history books when we learn about the War of 1812 and when Canada beat America's butt in the War of 1812. So, Americans, actually, you guys are pretty much losers. You lost the war in Vietnam. You got destroyed in Pearl Harbor, America. You lost to Canada, of all countries. I guess we're not like such pushover Canadians, eh? I guess we're not like such weak Canadians. You Americans lost a lot of wars. You lost the war on obesity. You Americans lost the war. Oh, and right. That's right. You lost during slavery. When you Americans, when you fat Americans were so lazy that you didn't want to pick cotton yourselves, you Americans lost during slavery. You Americans managed to get colonized by Africa during slavery. And you Americans, you really, I mean, you're losers. You Americans are losers when you look at it. I mean, you got destroyed at Pearl Harbor in World War II. Japan wiped the floor with you in Pearl Harbor, and you lost in the war at Vietnam. You lost to Canada in the War of 1812. You Americans are going to lose to China in 5 years. So that will be funny when Americans lose the American Chinese War in 5 years, when Americans lose to China. You Americans lost to Vietnam, and you Americans got your butts handed to you. I mean, that was embarrassing in the Confederate War. Americans were humiliated and destroyed. I mean, the Confederates in the Confederate War, the slaves and Africa, they wiped the floor with America. So you Americans are pretty much losers. So yeah, I don't see you Americans taking over Canada. I actually don't see you Americans making Canada the 51st state. I wish you would though. I'm a conservative Canadian, but like Justin Trudeau says, and like all the other Canadians say, all the famous Canadian politicians, and you saw that guy in the comments, you saw that Canadian guy in the comments. You're welcome to try, but you don't have the balls. You Americans, you don't have the balls to take over Canada. You don't even have the footballs. You Americans, you just don't have the balls to make Canada the 51st state. So I guess you Americans will just forever be losers. Oh, and of course, it wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't talk about Jesus, Jesus Christ, and the Bible Belt. Here we go. So of course I'm not gonna say anything like Jesus was gay. Of course I would never say Jesus was gay. But he did have long hair like a girl. Actually, Jesus Christ kind of looked like maybe he was transgender. Jesus Christ had long hair like a girl. And didn't Jesus Christ get in trouble for kissing a guy in the park? Remember when Jesus Christ kissed Judas in the park? Remember Jesus Christ? He went to go meet with his friend Judas. His friend Judas, you know what I mean? Jesus Christ went to go meet with his friend Judas, and he kissed Judas in the park. Uh, and I guess was Judas kind of like Jesus Christ's boyfriend? Who was the girl in that relationship? Well, I guess because Jesus Christ had long hair like a girl, Jesus Christ was the transgender one in that relationship. So Jesus Christ went to go meet with his boyfriend Judas, and he kissed Judas in the park. And then, because being, I guess they had laws about that back then, right? And then Jesus, who by the way also had a major foot fetish. I mean, did you see all those pages in the Bible about how Jesus liked to wash men's feet? Isn't that kind of weird? Isn't that kind of bizarre that Jesus, who's like transgendering and he's like borderline transgender, isn't that kind of weird how Jesus Christ just had an obsession with men's feet? He used to love to wash men's feet, right? And then like sprinkle oil and like perfume on men's feet. Isn't that kind of weird, right? And then of course Jesus Christ, don't forget his entourage of guys, Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ was definitely the most stylish out of all of the all of the carpenters. Right. Jesus Christ was into fashion. Jesus Christ, being a carpenter back then was like pretty much you were in fashion. That was fashion being a carpenter back then. Jesus Christ was like into fashion, and he definitely like was the best, he was the best, the stylish, the most stylish. Jesus Christ was the most stylish out of all the was the wise men, what of all the disciples. And that's right, Jesus Christ loved to hang around a bunch of guys. He had a whole bunch of guys always with him, 12 disciples. Jesus Christ. He had long hair like a girl. He kind of was like transgender. Jesus Christ loved to wash men's feet. And Jesus Christ kissed Judas in the park before Jesus Christ was crucified. And Jesus Christ um was actually, I think, wasn't Jesus Christ like very dark skinned? Yeah, I think I remember now. Jesus Christ, like Santa Claus. Jesus Christ, like well, they both don't exist, so I guess it makes sense because Santa Claus and Jesus Christ, they both are fictional characters, and Jesus Christ and Santa Claus, they have dark skin, and yeah, that's right. So you Americans, you probably wouldn't like to come to Canada, because Canada, we're pretty much all atheists up here in Canada. Like we are atheists, and there's a lot of Canadians that are Satan worshippers. Canada's full of atheists and Satan worshippers. And did you see the Exorcist movie? Did you Americans see the Exorcist movie? Like that's one of Canada's favorite movies. One of Canada's favorite movies is the Exorcist movie. Oh, and also Fahrenheit 9/11. Canada's favorite movies are Fahrenheit 9/11 and The Exorcism, because Canada is full of atheists and Satan worshippers. So, Americans, yeah, you probably wouldn't want to take over Canada anyways, because Canadians don't believe in God, especially not your God. Maybe one of the Hindu gods, but definitely not your God. And yeah, so you Americans actually probably won't want to take over Canada anyways, because Canada is full of atheists and Satan worshippers. Oh, and Jesus Christ was transgender.